Yo, what is good, guys, and welcome back to our F1 2019 career mode. This is part number 2 of the career mode, and here we are in Bahrain to do the second round of the season. And to be honest, last race wasn't really ideal, as we didn't even make one third of the race, and yeah, we were just awfully slow. But to be fair with you guys, I hope this race was actually going to be a lot better. And to be fair with you guys, the race wasn't like that much better, unfortunately, just to let you know. So yeah, we're just going to get straight into qualifying, as nothing really happened in practice. And yeah, let's get on with it, I guess.
Bruh.
Now, this quad lap wasn't really anything special, to be fair. We were just trying to get grips with the track, of course, as Bahrain was actually one of my strongest tracks in this game. So I thought I would actually bump the AI difficulty a bit, because last race I did around 96 or 97 AI. I bumped the AI difficulty this race to about like 100, because I'm like really good at this track against the AI for some reason. But with the slow William cars, the slow William car, I mean, we weren't really gonna have any pace. And yeah, this lap wasn't as bad as the Australia lap, as we actually weren't that far off the current pole. As Sebastian Vettel actually set a 129.5, and we were able to do it a 130.0. Wait, no, I mean a 128. A 128.0. I couldn't really read it, so yeah. Eventually, I decided to do my second run and final run in quality, since I didn't want to use too many sets of softs. And to be completely honest with you, this lap wasn't that bad. We were able to improve, but to be honest, I would have wanted something a bit quicker. So eventually, going to the first corner, we eventually had a pretty similar. We broke a lot early, actually, and ended up having a slightly better exit, eventually gaining around a 10th. And we opened the DRS a lot earlier, so eventually we could gain some more time. But we went into 8th gear a little bit earlier and lost a bit. Eventually, this corner, we did it pretty well, much better than the previous lap. However, we did go a bit too wide on the curve, and eventually lost a little bit of time. Eventually, here, I did kind of screw over, but I still actually gained time due to the better exit. Then heading into the first hairpin, we had a pretty dismal exit, but we still were able to gain time somehow. I don't know how, as we were only a tenth off on our previous best. The hairpin previously, we had a terrible exit, and eventually we were able to nail it by doing pretty good braking, and eventually gain almost 3 tenths. With quality over, we're at the moment in P19, so we would need a miracle to actually get into Q2, as eventually we actually had a lot more speed through these corners compared to our previous. I mean, I actually gained up to 4 tenths. However, we did eventually go a little bit wide just after, and eventually lost a bit of time. Now, I probably knew that this wasn't going to get us into Q2, but to be fair, I would have been happy with at least higher than P19. And at the final corner, we went a little bit wide, to be fair, and eventually we did have a slightly better exit than the previous lap, but this was probably not going to be enough, and we only ended up qualifying P17. Which was better than how the Williams car should be qualifying, but not gonna lie, yeah, it is what it is. Oh man, I mean, we had the pace to get into Q2, but oh, we're only a 10th off. Actually, it was so close. Okay, so yeah, so Hamilton makes it through. Are there any surprises? Doesn't seem like it. So we have Hulkenberg as Devon, Stroll, and Russell. Okay. You know what? To be fair, that could work. Okay, P17 has a pretty good qualifying result. We might be able to finish well in the race. I'm not too sure. We just need the race to go well in the end.
The curtain rises once more then on the desert stage of Sakhir as the players take their places for the opening act. Will they enthrall us like they did in 2014 with that titanic battle between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton? Well, we'll find out shortly as we get underway here in Bahrain. Formula One returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36-mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities. It could be a strategic race, this one, with Sakhir notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some point during the Grand Prix. Bahrain has showed us many times in the past, though, Anthony Davidson, that a good strategy will only take you so far. Beyond that, you need good racecraft and you need good consistency.
And a little bit of luck too, I'd say. This is one of those circuits where the safety car always seems to come out just at the right time to condense the field together and mix up the cars on different strategies. It's hard on brakes, it's tough on fuel, and the main overtaking opportunity is down into turn 1, where it's easy to outbrake your opponent and potentially have a bit of argy-bargy as well.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position with Charles Leclerc alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Bottas, Sebastian Vettel and Albon, Perez, Magnussen, Norris and Roman Grosjean, Sainz, Weber, Daniel Ricciardo and Kvyat, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg, Lucky and Devon Butler, Stroll and George Russell ends our grid lineup. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
You qualified higher than we were expecting, so see if you can keep this position in the race.
Okay, so wait a minute. Do we have formation lap enabled? Oh, okay, the formation lap is off again, bruh. Alright. Okay, so we're starting P17. There's gonna be a lot of mixed strategies throughout the race. As Williams suggests that we should go on medium, then try to do hard. Yeah, every team has just one strategy set for each of their drivers. You want us to go with the medium hard? Okay, we can do this. Come on. And eventually, it was time for us to go out from the fireflies to start this Bahrain Grand Prix. And it was lights out and away we go. And we didn't really have a good start as we already lost 2 positions to Stroll and Butler. Eventually, I thought I could look down the inside, but my teammate just full on sends it. I eventually tried to get involved until I just run in right into the side of Raikkonen and damage my front wing and have a lot of understeer. And I eventually went a bit wide. I mean, I just thought it was pretty chaotic. I managed to stay in P17, but Raikkonen was trying to go and try and re-overtake me. I left the space, but was eventually able to stay ahead. Russell was already up to P16. That dive bomb actually kind of helped as we had Stroll and Weber just battling ahead as the throwing damage isn't really helping us. I mean, I could just pit, but that would just practically bring us out of the race. Eventually, we were for some reason a lot slower than we were in qualifying, which doesn't really make any sense. And Weber and Stroll still going at it between for P14, I think. Russell could have eventually gotten involved and maybe could have made an overtake, but you know the Williams car isn't that quick. As eventually we were just going to try and keep position. I wasn't going to try to go too aggressive with this wing damage as I could even take that corner flat as we go really wide actually and get our first track limit warning, but we managed to save it. And we actually go wide. Again, that front wing damage isn't really helpful to be fair. Yes, I actually said that in the thing, I don't know why. So yeah, with Hamilton now leading the entire grid, we were now just trying to hold our position, but Raikkonen had a better exit than us and was going to try and get past us, with Devon and Hülkenberg just behind. As we brake really late and tried to get past Raikkonen, but we go too wide. But we're able to hold onto the position actually, I don't know how.
P17 now, we have P17, George is ahead of
As Raikkonen would actually try to have another go at us, and eventually, yeah, I eventually was able to stay ahead once again.
your pit window opens, 28 laps to...
Now, skipping a couple of laps, the front wing damage wasn't really helping us. I eventually just decided not to fire, and eventually I was able to actually hold off Devon and George, as eventually Devon does re-overtake us just towards the start of lap 7, but eventually I am behind him and I have the slipstream and eventually tried to overtake him. George was also trying to overtake, meaning I actually had the entire outside line to myself, meaning I was actually going to be 3 wide as we went into turn 1. I tried to make the move, but Devon just turned slightly and eventually just causes us to just go wide. Eventually we have to cut the corner since I don't want to crash into George, and eventually we have the slipstream again. Devon was not really helping as because he was in front, he eventually had the slipstream, but unfortunately for us we ran right into the side of him and eventually lost the car and just went into the wall. So yeah, it's once again Australia, as we just ended up bidding our race and ended up into the wall, which I honestly don't get why it happens. Like I thought this was gonna be a lot easier, to be honest, but for some reason I just always get caught in some stupid crash and eventually just ruin my race. But I didn't want to just DNF, that would just be unfair. I knew that I would just alternate the strategy and eventually just try and somehow make the most of it. But eventually, I eventually also cut the corner by accident for some reason, and I was really struggling because the timer was already quite high. But eventually, you guys can see on the minimap there was actually a yellow flag, and that was because Albon and Magnussen actually came together, making Albon go out of the race. Now, I didn't actually watch the replay, so I had no idea what actually happened. And Magnussen ended up falling down the order, and he actually had to pit for a new front wing. And so I'm guessing that Magnussen maybe just like ran into Albon's tire and caused him to retire. Wait, no. But eventually I just had a look, and yeah, it didn't seem like Albon had any broken tire. It was probably just an engine failure for Albon, and Magnussen just ran into the back of him or inside of him. I don't know, because maybe they were like going side by side. But yeah, eventually I decided to box for a new front wing, and yeah, we're gonna hopefully make the most of it, as we're gonna be going on a set of soft tires, and then we'll try and go on the hard tires to go to the end. Now, literally nothing happened for the race. Eventually, everyone had done their pit stops. I, of course, had to do another pit stop because I was not going to be able to go to the end on these soft tires. But Kvyat also had an engine failure, meaning that we gained another position, and we're now up to P18. So, yeah, we practically were nowhere for the entire race. I mean, yeah, at this rate, if we carried on, we would have probably been lapped, because if we pit again, we would not even be that much quicker, to be fair. So, yeah, eventually, this was probably even worse than the Australia race, because we practically did this time we did do the entire race, but it just ended in complete shambles, as we were almost 20 seconds behind Russell, just showing how slow we were. And eventually I decided to pit this lap for a fresh set of hard, as I wasn't sure if I even had a fresh set of medium because I used them at the beginning. Yeah, eventually I decided to go on a set of hards, and yeah, that would be it, to be fair. Eventually I pitted, and yeah, this was really unfortunate, of course, because in the first two races we were involved in accidents, or because in the first race we crashed into Devon, and in the second race we had a incident with Devon again. Like, I don't know why it's always Devon that we had it, because in the first race in Australia, if you guys didn't watch the previous episode, on lap 1 I ended up trying to overtake Devon, but I ended up just spinning myself around on lap 1. And eventually, in this race, around lap 6, I would end up trying to overtake Devon and Russell, but I would just go into the side of him and just lose the car. So yeah, now I was on a set of hards and would have to try and go to the end. But eventually, I was hoping I wasn't actually going to be lapped, because if I was, that would be just pretty disappointing. Now, unfortunately, things didn't really go to plan even after I was lapped, because I ended up crashing again. Like, I actually ended up crashing again, and I have, like, no idea how. So, yeah, I'm just gonna show you what happened in our base. So, yeah. Eventually, I was being lapped by Hamilton. Vettel was just behind me, and I would have to let him pass. I was thinking I was gonna just let him pass just before the end of Sector 1. So, eventually, after this straight here, just after these two set of corners. But, unfortunately for me being me, I lost the car, and eventually just damaged half of my front wing and sent myself into the wall. So yeah, my race just went from bad to worse. But eventually I just decided to give up, and eventually I'm just gonna pit for a fresh set of softs, since yeah. Because eventually if I pit for the fresh set of softs, I would eventually just end this misery whatsoever. Or I didn't want to retire though, because that would just be stupid. So yeah, eventually I was after doing 3 stops. I would have to actually do 3 stops in this race actually, instead of like the usual 1. Which is absolutely nuts to think about. And yeah, to be fair, I'm probably going to finish like almost a lap behind Magnussen at this rate, which makes it even worse, as I could not turn the car whatsoever due to the wing damage. Just showing how bad I am at this game. I didn't want to set the difficulty a little bit lower, because that would just make it easier for me. I want to make this an actual proper challenge, because if you're in the Williams on F1 2019, that's like the slowest car by far. And I didn't want to make getting good results easy actually. I mean, this race we actually did qualify decent enough, which was better than what the Williams team wanted, as they predicted P19 qualifying and P19 in the race. However, still, it's not gonna be easy. And yeah, just this race, I honestly didn't want to make this race on YouTube, since this race was almost 2 hours of footage in total. Yeah, I spent 2 hours doing this entire race, and I'm probably gonna cut this video down to like 15 to 20 minutes actually, which is pretty crazy. As yeah, we do enter the pits eventually for like the third time. And we actually only have like three. I mean, actually only have like three. I think we only have like four laps because although it says lap 25, because we're lapped, the leaders are on lap 26. Meaning that basically we would actually not be lapped. Not do the entire race distance, but eventually I was hoping I was going to be able to get ahead of Sainz. As you can see on the menu, I was just going down the straight, but my luck wasn't really going to help, as eventually I did get out of the pits just ahead of him, but unfortunately I still had to let him pass actually, and I couldn't really get away from him because my tires were cold, and I would probably just have to let him pass. Which is actually just what I did. I decided to let him pass. So yeah, this race was just getting even worse. We were literally lapped, and eventually, if we just have a look at the gap from Magnussen, we were almost 1 minute and 3 seconds behind him actually, which is very unfortunate to be fair. Yeah, it's weird how we have to do actually a medium soft, hard medium strategy in this race, which I don't think is normal to be fair. I mean, in 100% race, it wouldn't be that bad because you would have to do, because in a 100% race at Bahrain, because you have to do 57 laps, eventually you would just have to do a 2-stop, which would be like a soft medium or something. So yeah, it was pretty unfortunate, but I was hoping Sainz was going to give me some good slipstream, and eventually I was trying to get a gap from him so I wouldn't actually just run into the back of him like I did with Devon, because yeah, the slipstream sometimes can be quite OP to be fair in this game. I didn't have anyone else behind me, which meant that I wouldn't have any problems whatsoever. As yeah, we're eventually going to be starting this lap, and eventually hoping that we could actually set a quick lap with only about 3 laps to go. We were actually gaining on Sainz quite a lot to be fair, and I didn't want to and I decided to be cautious and brake early since I didn't want to just full on run into the back of him, which yeah. And eventually we were able to get the slipstream, but because the DRS is like so OP at this track, eventually I was just closing in, so I thought I could try and overtake him to the outside, but I did the same mistake again of just running into the back of someone's car. The front wheel average was only yellow though, I mean I could probably carry on to be fair. And yeah, we're still up by 3/10 in the first sector, which wasn't terrible to be fair. But I was just hoping that, because Sainz was on very old medium tires, this wouldn't really help. And yeah, eventually I quickly paused the menu because I had to do something. But here at this point, after I do finish pausing the menu, because yeah, the game sometimes can be quite buggy, something weird happens. My game just like lags, and eventually my car just has a lot of delay and doesn't turn, and eventually just go into the wall. Like, I was actually so confused. I swear this never happens. Like, my game just lagged and the car just didn't turn. I eventually went into the replays to have a look, and yeah, it just seemed like that my game was like delayed, meaning that the car just wouldn't turn. I mean, you can see that, I mean, my braking was also practically delayed, meaning that this race actually unfortunately ended in another retirement. Yeah, 2 DNS in the first 2 races is not ideal to be fair. And yeah, I prefer not, I want to just restart the career at this rate, but yeah, Hamilton will this time take the win for the 2nd time this season. And yeah, Hamilton will probably win the championship due to how good he is in this game. So yeah, and eventually, there were no other crazy, I hope there were not going to be any other crazy results, hopefully. But yeah, unfortunately Alfa Romeo got some really good points, meaning that we are now only going to be really fighting Toro Rosso, as we did actually have the pace to be honest, as Russell would only finish P17 because he was overtaken by Magnussen at the end, which is just pretty unfortunate to be fair. Eventually, I don't know how long Stroll even ended up finishing P10 after starting P19. I guess his strategy worked somehow, as yeah, it was pretty unfortunate. Eventually, it was just us, Kvyat and Albon not finishing the race, with us getting a penalty and us doing a free stopper, which is enough. And eventually, yeah, nothing much happened. Having a look at the standings, Hamilton. I mean, I was going to say Hamilton was in the stands, but my brain just started to scroll immediately down. And eventually, we're still 8th in the Constructors somehow. I have no idea how. We're ahead of Toro Rosso and Haas, and I don't know how Haas have not scored a single point yet. And eventually, yeah, Hamilton's now leading the championship by a bit, and yeah, Russell was now P18 and we were still last. So yeah, it was pretty unfortunate to be fair. But yeah, guys, it is what it is.
Bad luck today. That must be incredibly disappointing. Devon did much better in today's race than he did in qualifying. Were you expecting that?
Yeah, to be honest, I was expecting Devon to qualify better. I mean, just look at the car he has.
Your car is looking a little bit...
I mean, my control just disconnected, so I didn't really know what to say. I'm just gonna say, yeah, to be honest, it was nothing. The car just didn't work.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, I don't know why I said it was nothing really. Like, I should have said something else to be fair, but the car was fine. They didn't have any issues whatsoever. I can't just lie, that would just be unfair. And yeah, well, I prefer personally not to talk about this race weekend. So yeah, guys, this is gonna be it for the video. I honestly hope this was gonna be a lot better than I expected to be fair. Instead, it was just worse and worse. Yeah, I actually need to start getting my grip on the game because I can't just keep crashing. That's not how an F1 career works. I'm not like other drivers like Pastor Maldonado or Nikita Mazepin, but yeah. Eventually, yeah, guys, I will upload another video this weekend if I have time, and then yeah, I might start trying to upload a bit more frequently though. I'm not too sure if I'll be able to do that because I don't want to do always like 30-minute videos. So yeah, and yeah, I'll just see you guys next time, I guess. I might also try to stream on Twitch also if I can somehow fix my laptop. My laptop is like good enough for videos, as you can see. The last videos have had really good quality to be fair, and yeah, I haven't had any issues. So yeah, I will just stop yapping now, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. So bye.